Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we offer Classic Patrick and Classic Mark as paid DLC. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including a bunch of paid DLC coming to LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. And then on Thursday, Kirby Month continues with our review discussion, I don't know what you want to call it, of Kirby Planet Robobot for the Nintendo 3DS. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I have a question for you, Patrick, right off the bat.
Yes.
What era of your life would be Classic Patrick
Ooh.
if it was available as DLC?
Oh my god. Well, I feel like, okay, if it's available as DLC and it's in the context of an artistic endeavor that I'm undertaking with you, it's got to be like UCB 301.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Like when we first met in improv class.
For sure.
When we were going to Herald Night and the jam and all these kind of things. Like it would be, you know, I'm wearing like jeans and a flannel.
I was going to say, I was just thinking, I was like, what sartorially would be different about myself? Maybe I have better fitting jeans now. Maybe.
Maybe, but I was thinner. I was running more. Yeah, I don't know. I think.
Yeah, that's a great.
I think both of us just had like a glimmer of hope in our eyes.
That's a solid era for sure. And I like the fact that it's us together.
Yes.
Because the only other time, like, when else would be the classic era of my life?
Well, I mean, of course, when you were the football quarterback in high school,
of
course, right?
Yes, that's right. The stereotypical football quarterback. You know, like
beautiful cheerleaders under each arm.
110 pounds,
yep.
Wearing a Tron t-shirt with like Drew Carey glasses. Yeah, just the picture of athleticism for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's fun to think of what classic versions of real people are.
Yeah, let's not do that anymore.
It's no good.
Let's move along.
I don't like it. Speaking of classic versions of things that are no good, my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch, would you like to borrow it? You can. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. There may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there instead of Sonic Forces. That's just a thing that happens. A goose is a mischievous animal. We can't control it. You play the game, whatever it is, for as long as you want. You send it back. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the perfect borrowing program.
Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. I feel like we're learning recently that most people are not getting their podcasts from Apple Podcasts. But we talk about it all the time. Like it's something people are where everybody is, where the buzz, the hive of activity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's still it's the first, if not the most ubiquitous at present.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we should probably just be saying like, rate us on Spotify, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what we're saying is probably still true, which is rate us wherever you can.
Right.
But also is still true. We appreciate it sincerely. Everybody who has rated us, everybody who is on the cusp of rating us, everybody in the future who will rate us. We appreciate it a lot. It helps people find the show. It helps the show grow. Patrick and I love reading them. And we check the U.S. Apple Podcast Store to see if people have left us reviews, because that is the one place that we know of where you can leave written reviews that include like a name that we can shout out, a username. So if you do leave us a 5-star review on the US Apple Podcast Store, we see it. We will give you a shout out, and thank you so much. If you leave us a review anywhere else, or you share the show in some other way, totally hit us up. Let us know through email, hit us up on Twitter. we would love to give you a shout out.
Yeah, we love seeing that stuff. So thank you again to everyone who has already done it, and thank you if you're thinking about doing it and are actually gonna take the step to actually to go ahead and do it. Mark, it's March, which means it's Kirby month, which means every topic episode this whole month we are talking about Kirby games. This Thursday we are discussing the 3DS game Planet Robobot. On the 17th, we will be determining the 10 best Kirby sub-games. On the 24th, we will be discussing weird Kirby games featuring Kirby's Dream Course. So calm down, you Kirby's Dream Course freaks. We'll get to it. And then on March 31st, we will be having a deep, in-depth, thorough conversation about Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the brand new game coming to the Nintendo Switch.
And it was just happenstance that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is releasing in March when because we were planning on doing Kirby month before the release date was known, but I've got to tell you the timing could not be more perfect because every day it feels like since Kirby month began I've been waking up and there's some Kirby
some little bit of Kirby news
happening. It's like we're living in a Kirby dream and I could not be enjoying it more.
Well, it's also helping me because prior to Kirby month and our commitment to Kirby month, I had not played that many Kirby games, right? So I feel like I am really boning up for the final exam that is talk about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And I feel like we're going to nail it, Mark.
I believe in us. And,
yes.
And I think the classic
us,
yes, would believe in us as well.
I think they would too. Mark, we got an email from Patty D about our conversation last week about the Pokemon Bank and that sort of stuff. Patty D writes, "Hey guys, just listened to the latest show and I wanted to give you a bare bones rundown of Bank to help clarify.
Yes.
Pokemon from Virtual Console games can transfer to Bank using Poke Transporter, downloaded from Pokemon Bank, and can then be played on 3DS games. This also applies to Black and White games. Pokemon in Bank can transfer to Home to use on Switch games. There are certain catches to what games they can be used on, though. Pokemon Go can also transfer to Home." I know. Then he says, then there's more, and we'll get back to that in a second. But Patty D followed up in a different email to be like, "Hey guys, I wanted to correct my earlier statement about Pokemon Bank. I recently discovered that virtual console Pokemon can only get transferred into the Sun and Moon series."
Got it.
Love the show. Keep up the great work. A lot of things to address here. First of all, let it never be said that we are experts on Pokemon, the Pokemon games, or how the Pokemon services work. Thank you so much to everyone trying to help us understand.
Yeah, oh my gosh, sincerely.
But it's a mess. Thank you for correcting the wrong things we say about it. We will continue to be wrong. And it is a little bit flabbergasting that there's no just unified thing that
but I guess
makes
there's
it all work.
Clearly from Patty D's email, it is such a Frankenstein of systems that they have barely strung together, so it seems technically possible to get your Pokemon from Virtual Console into Sun and Moon, and then some of them from Sun and Moon into Home, which can somewhat transfer. There has to be a flow chart out there.
There definitely are flow charts. I've seen them before, and they make sense. But it's also one of those things where you're just like, oh, I just won't do this. You know what I mean?
I mean, especially at our level of investment.
Oh yeah, who cares?
Pokemon.
Yeah.
But again, like Patrick said, we really appreciate people helping us out, especially in such because I'm never gonna look at that flow chart and try to actually understand it. So thank you, Patty D, for writing in and helping us break that down.
Patty D also has questions about two things. So I guess he answered questions for us and then corrected his answer. I think we owe him the answer to these two questions. First, what is the origin story of 433 and the Perfect Sonic Forces borrowing program? How did you decide on the games involved? And sorry for the long email. Patty G, not that long of an email. You don't need to apologize. 433, what's the origin story of 433?
So this is my memory of it, and let's see if this matches up. So when Patrick and I were first thinking about doing a podcast, we met up for lunch in Hollywood at this kind of like Tender Greens that is next to Barry's Boot Camp on like Hollywood and Vine or Hollywood and Argyle.
There's also a Shake Shack over there now.
Yep. And it was something that, Patrick, you kind of had like fully formed. Like you knew it was something that you wanted to incorporate. Well, is how I remember it.
So one of the things that I was sort of adamant about when we were first conceiving of this show was that it be structured, that it be like very structured, that we move from like this segment to this segment. And, you know, obviously our topic episodes have veered off of that a little bit. But our news episodes are still pretty regimented. And I was like, I still want there to be a way, like a space where we are just sort of expressing who we are and like being ourselves outside of the bounds of Nintendo. Nintendo. And I knew about the John Cage piece 433, and yeah, just sort of like came in pitching that as like, here's a time when we get to just talk about whatever else.
Now, Sonic Force's borrowing program and it being the perfect program, I have to admit, I don't really remember.
Here's the thing. It happened on this show, right? Like the genesis of I should just lend this out to people who are listening happened on the show. I do not remember exactly how it went down, but I think the gist of it was I bought Sonic Forces because I was curious, or because, you know, every now and then I can be real dumb when it comes to video game franchises that I think I should like, and Sonic is one of them. Xenoblade Chronicles is another one. So I bought it. I played it for like an hour or two and was like, I don't like this. What am I supposed to do with this? And I believe it just came up on the show like, we should lend it to people. And it was just a strange enough idea that we started putting out there to see if anyone would be interested in doing it. And it started so long ago that I don't think either of us expected anyone to take us up on it. And then people started emailing and getting on the list. And now that's just it. Untitled Goose Game, why did that happen?
I think Untitled Goose Game, and luckily I think there's a recorded history of all of this.
Yes.
But my memory of what why Untitled Goose Game happened is that there was a moment when Sonic Forces was lost.
Oh, yes.
In the mail. Like the envelope had come back, but there was a hole in the envelope where clearly the cartridge had fallen out.
That's right.
The game card had fallen out, and so, or game pack. And so
game cart.
And so what we were in a little bit of a crisis. We knew that the Sonic Forces borrowing program was the perfect program.
Right. So whatever was going to happen was what was meant to happen. Right, yes.
And somebody offered their copy of Sonic Forces. And I think a listener also maybe recommended or said like, hey, what if you did it with Untitled Goose Game?
It does.
Like the two ideas got combined.
It does seem like it was listener driven, that listeners were like, hey, we're sorry that this is happening to this, maybe the following. And then since the program is perfect, it continued of its own volition. And which is why I say we have no control over which game we get.
I think if we were in control, the Sonic Forces borrowing program would be over at this point.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right. Thank you, Patty D. I hope we have answered your questions. You have answered ours, and I still refuse to consult that flowchart. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week.
So I have been playing Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch. I am at the point in the game, again, as always, a couple of minutes of spoilers, so jump ahead a few minutes if you are concerned about that. But, you know, I just the last time we talked, I had gotten the like pearl from the bottom of the ocean.
Yes.
And so that's like 2 of the 7 like orbs you have to get.
Yes.
And, you know, I had talked about before where it was always pretty clear where you were supposed to go. And up to this point, that has been true. And now I have reached a point where, like, it's not so linear. It has opened up a little bit in a way where when I open the map before, it would say, like, essentially just go here, like, do this thing. And now it just says, you got to find the other orbs. You know, if you need hints, you can go back under the surface and ask. But it's kind of up to you. So I know generally where I'm supposed to be going. and there's like a new part of the map that it directs you to, and then once you get there, it's kind of like open ended. I just went to the school, the academy that is for like the mini medals,
Yes. Yep.
and on that same like
These are all the it's all like young female enemies, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like
It's like a girls'
it's a
school.
younger it's a
Yeah.
school for girls that
It's populated by monsters.
and it's French.
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Everybody speaks with really exaggerated French accents, and on that same land there is kind of like this South Asian. Every place that you go, at least so far, has like a very specific look to it, where
Yeah.
it is very clearly like, oh, it's supposed to be Italy, it's supposed to be France.
It's like a whole bunch of Pokemon games in one game.
Totally, with a little dash of Punch Out. And so I'm at this one that's very like Southeast Asian, and that is where I am right now. I'm pretty sure I'm in the correct location for the next thing to happen.
Yeah, I think you are.
But yeah, that's kind of where things stand.
Let me know when you head north, Mark. 'Cause,
Okay.
I want to really talk about when you go into the sort of like Nordic, like Swedish.
Oh, got it.
area.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm
no,
already
I'm
looking forward to it.
It's awesome. It's where a bunch of great things start happening. Mark, we got an email from Aaron. Aaron writes, "Hi, Mark and Patrick. I literally finished Dragon Quest XI S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch for the first time last week, and I did not bat an ear when you were calling Sylvando by the wrong name.
Yes.
I think names in this game are particularly hard to remember for me because I have the Japanese audio on with the English text, and most of the names are different. One particularly egregious change was Sylvando's companion, who you talk to when you want to board the ship. His name is Dave in English, but Alice in Japanese. I don't understand why the localization team couldn't give a masculine man a traditionally female name, but would also keep Sylvando so flamboyant. So yeah, it's just he's confused. Nonetheless, I really enjoyed the game, and I look forward to hearing your conversations as Mark plays through the game.
Oh man, I so glad to hear that on so many levels. But also, I'm playing the exact same way, Aaron. I am playing.
Yeah, that's
with
how I
the-
played too.
with the English voice acting, but the Japanese voice acting, but the English subtitles. Because I just could not do the English voiceover, but.
That is also how I am making my way, or was making my way, through the Triangle Strategy demo. It also has every line is voice acted, and you can choose between Japanese and English voice acting. And I had the Japanese on and was like, I'm not really enjoying all these like dialogue heavy things. So I was like, I'll put on the English voice acting just to see, maybe it'll be like more engaging that way. But there's just so much dialogue in it that, and it's just like dense, reams of pages of dialogue about like nothing. Or it's just about like the socio-political, whatever, between these three kingdoms, and all of it really loosely characterized. In the demo, there's one character who I think is kind of interesting, and only when he's drunk. But so I played. I maybe did another like half an hour or 45 minutes of play within the demo. Didn't get to another fight. And I'm calling it. I'm done. I'm not going to pick up Triangle Strategy. It's I'm just pushing my chips in. No, the opposite. I'm taking my chips and I'm going home. I don't need to play Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Last week, the reviews for Triangle Strategy came out, and they were generally positive, but there was a lot of discussion in it about, hey, you want to like do a battle and then wait an hour until the next one, because that happens frequently.
And the answer is no.
Right, I know. And so I think I'm totally not going to pick up Triangle Strategy either. That really that just doesn't appeal to me on any level, really.
Yeah. And it's so funny because like so the thing I have to keep going back to is Fire Emblem, right? Like Fire Emblem is sort of my RPG strategy game of choice. And when you're not doing battles in Fire Emblem, yeah, there are like cutscenes and there's dialogue and stuff, but it's all so driven. Even those scenes are also driven by relationships and personalities, and then there are all these like different ways that you're interacting with the characters that build on those relationships. And I just find that way more compelling than like, oh, I'm making a decision that makes my character appear like he's a benevolent leader. And it's like, I don't care about that at all.
Yeah.
I want to teach in the school or, get these two characters flirting together so they can have kids in the future or whatever. I was not enjoying my time with Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about it last week when we were talking about your experience with the first part of the demo, but I also think for me one of the things that has changed since Octopath Traveler came out is there are so many JRPGs that I'm excited about on Switch, whereas before with Octopath Traveler,
that was it.
It kind of felt that way, like it was the beginning of that promise. And so now it's like, oh, I'll just not play this because I want to play Live Alive later this year. I want to play Dragon Quest 3 when it comes out.
Going to play Chrono Cross.
Exactly.
There are all of these. And mind you, those are all like classic games. So this is us being old man yelling at Cloud. But not Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, but the Simpsons thing.
But I could do that too.
I also played Planet Robobot this weekend in its entirety. I downloaded it on Saturday morning. I finished it on Sunday. Obviously, we will be talking about that a lot more on Thursday's episode. But Mark, did you have?
I was just going to say, you're right, Patrick. It is listeners, you should just assume that we were also playing Kirby games.
Yes.
This week, we're just not going to be talking about them on the Tuesday episodes because we will, of course, be talking about them throughout the month. The one thing I was going to say is just because you and I are not going to check out Triangle Strategy, listener, if you are playing Triangle Strategy and whether you're enjoying it, not enjoying it, whatever your experience is, we would love to hear about it because we want to talk about it on the show. It's a big release, but we just don't want to pick it up. But maybe you can change our minds.
Well, I think my mind is pretty much made up. Unless someone is like, oh, at hour 3 it gets amazing and stays that way, then maybe. But like,
well, I can be easily swayed.
Okay, well, Mark can be swayed. All right, Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So this is not a upcoming release, but earlier last week there is a demo for Kirby and the Forgotten Land that you can download and play right this very minute.
Right now!
Unlike some previous demos, this is not the kind of thing where it just starts at the beginning of the game and your progress will carry over. This is like a brief taste of what the game has to offer. And judging by the videos online, it's super cute.
Super cute.
Do you see like the videos of people just walking around waving at Waddle Dees?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very adorable. I have not checked it out yet. Again, I'm kind of up to my eyeballs in other Kirby games as it is.
And we're committed to play Forgotten Land.
And we're committed to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we won't have any like preview reactions here. But if you want to check it out, you have that option.
Also, keep an eye out for Mario-related sales on the eShop this week. Mario, how do you say this? Mar10? Mario, where the I and the O are transformed into a 10 day.
So that's March 10th.
Yes.
Is Mario Day. Yeah, the day is coming up, and Nintendo has already teased that there's going to be sales on the eShop, or maybe they are already active. And then there are also like other retailers like Amazon, Best Buy, and GameStop are all also advertising sales. So if you are interested in games featuring Mario, they're a little bit less expensive than they normally are.
Also coming up on March 10th, I really had to think about how to say that because I was still transforming it like March. Yeah. March 10th, Thursday, Chocobo GP.
Chocobo GP
is released for Switch. I'm excited.
Reviews for this are also already kind of dropping, and it's getting kind of exactly the kind of reviews I was expecting, where people are like, this is a pretty competent kart racer game, but we think it's only okay. Mark, it's a $50 game instead of a $60 game. So consider that when next you see me and I've purchased this game and I'm playing it and loving it.
I mean, yeah, the reviews are exactly like you said, but it's exactly what I want. A
Yeah,
cute
yeah.
Final Fantasy kart racer.
Yes. Well, and like this is so completely the kind of game that I want to like veg out and play with Sarah, right? That like she knows how to kart race, she likes it, she's good at it. And like we can just get into it and like unlock characters together, unlock tracks together. I'm very look, it's dumb. I'm excited about Chocobo GP coming out this week, Mark.
I can't believe it. I didn't think this day was actually going to come.
And then I also just wanted to point out that there is a game coming out on Wednesday, March 9th called Will You Snail?
I will if you ask politely.
Will you please snail? All right, Mark, let's get out of the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I'll talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, there was a new Batman movie that came out this week. Don't worry, no spoilers. Neither of us have seen it. But we commit so much of this show to talking about like Star Wars and like Marvel-y stuff, and I thought it would just be fun for us to like talk about DC movies and how we feel about them, what we want from them, what our experiences are of them. So, Mark, modern DC movies, how do you feel about them?
I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah.
So I have to put that out there because what I have seen, I have never really like loved. There have been some that I've enjoyed, but nothing that I've walked away like saying like I really want to see more of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's for the most part, that's my experience with them too. I really enjoyed the Birds of Prey. That's one I didn't see. Oh, it's so good. I think you can get it on HBO now. That was one of the last movies I saw in the theater before the pandemic hit. But I enjoyed that a lot, and I liked the Suicide Squad quite a bit too. So I think it's just like that tone of DC that I like. I think they hit something fun there, that sort of like irreverent edgelord violent comedy thing, which I have to be like in the right mood to engage with. But yeah, otherwise, like it's been a minute since I've been excited about a DC movie.
Have you watched is it Peacemaker from the
I have not
the
watched
TV
that
show on HBO Max that's a spin-off of the Suicide Squad?
Right. I started to put it on, and Sarah said, "Is this going to be weird and violent?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I don't want to watch that." So we turned it off.
I haven't watched it either, but I've heard really good things about it, that it has made me interested in it. It's also made me interested in going back and watching the Suicide Squad, which I didn't see. I think one thing that I do like about DC movies recently that is not really true of Marvel is that DC movies feel much more like writer-director driven.
Yeah.
And that's either like good or bad, right? Like you go to a Marvel movie and I feel like I know it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, and like with a few exceptions, Marvel movies are absent the the strong personality of filmmakers. Obviously, like Taika Waititi is like a little bit of an outlier. James Gunn, of course, another outlier.
But I feel like even that is all through the filter.
They're sanded down
Marvel.
a little,
yeah, and like all the Marvel movies have a really specific look.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were filmed in
and sound.
Look and sound. And but I feel like one thing I'd like about DC movies, whether I like the movie or not, is I never really know what I'm gonna get.
Yeah,
they are much more like personality driven, which I think is a virtue compared to the Marvel movies.
Yeah. Are there any? It's tough because like I don't really have like my finger on the pulse of like what's coming next. If you could will a DC movie into existence, like what character would you want to see?
Okay, so. This is not exactly answering your question, but is tangential to it. Because one of the things
we've got 15 seconds.
Oh gosh!
Oh no, it's over.
Well, I was gonna say The Flash, but we are getting that movie. But then also, this like Spider-Man thing just happened, which sounds a lot like what they're trying to do with The Flash. So, I don't know.
I mean, Flashpoint is a modern classic storyline. They're gonna not do the best part of Flashpoint, which is the Batman who's Thomas Wayne and the Joker who's Martha, and it was their son who was gunned down in the alley. It's such a good twist on it. But yeah, that's Flashpoint Batman is absolutely what I would want to see. Mark, we were accompanied today by the Berliner Philharmoniker. Let's get into the news.
Warner Brothers Games, TT Games, the LEGO Group, and Lucasfilm Games revealed plans for downloadable content for LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, coming out on April 5th. The game, not the DLC.
Well, but also some of the DLC coming out the day the game is releasing.
This so-called character collection will release in the form of 7 different packs, each based on movies and TV shows that aren't technically part of the Skywalker Saga, but are characters that you may want to see in this game and play as. So they're just sliding them in this way.
Yeah, but with like 2 sort of notable exceptions that I don't understand and we have to talk about. But let's do these first 2 first.
Okay, so on April 5th, the day the game releases, the Mandalorian Season 1 character pack releases with Mando, Grogu as a non-playable character.
What is happening there? What do you mean? What do you mean non-playable? What is? Does he just like follow someone around in his little like bassinet? Like,
yeah,
what?
I guess which I think is so funny that they include Grogu is non-playable, because it's like, well, we got to have Grogu,
Right.
but you can't play as Grogu. So you're just going to pay money to look at Grogu.
Yeah.
Which I do anyway.
Which, yes, right. I mean, like that's the premise of Mandalorian
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
So also this pack are Grief Karga, Cara Dune, IG-11, and
Queel. Queel, that little guy who rides the whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Sure, the one with the face.
The one with the face, yeah. No, he rides that like weird cow thing, the lizard cow thing.
From the first season.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I like that character a lot. Oh, what are those things called? They're on Cloud City.
It's like Blurg.
Well, yeah.
Oh, no, he's an Ugnaught.
He's an Ugnaught.
Yeah, that's right.
The thing he's riding is a Blurg.
Right.
And then also on April 5th.
Also, sorry, I just had to go back. That it's very funny that Grief Karga, that's Bill Burr's character. So like Bill Burr is going to be in this game.
Okay. Solo, a Star Wars story character pack, also released on April 5th, featuring such much-loved characters as young Han, young Chewie, young Lando, Kira, Tobias
cool.
Beckett, and Enfys Nest.
So I really like the inclusion of Kira, Beckett, and Enfys Nest. I think that's cool. I don't need young Han, young Chewie, and young. First of all, young Chewie.
Young Chewie.
What are we talking
By like
about?
20 years. Chewie's like 700 years old.
Yeah, he's 200, but yeah, he's not Yoda, Mark.
He's like 200 years old. What is 20 years?
It's like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks exactly the same. Sorry, I said it. It's a compliment. And then also coming later, there's Classic Character Pack on April 19th, including Luke, Leia, Han, Vader, and Lando. Early access with certain like retail pre-orders.
What does this mean? Classic Character Pack includes Luke, Leia, Han, Vader, and Lando.
Wait a second.
Does that mean those characters aren't in the game?
But don't they have to be, because it's all of the movies?
But
And they feature pretty prominently in 3 of them.
Yes, and then a couple of them in the sequels as well. I don't know what this means.
Maybe it allows you to play as them in the movies they're not in. So, like, you can play as Luke, Leia, Han, Vader, and Lando in, like, the prequel trilogy.
Or it means that you're playing the original trilogy as C-3PO. Like,
that would be funny, because George Lucas always wanted to tell,
Yep.
like, you know, he said these stories are being told from the point of view of the droids.
That's right.
That would be amazing. That would be hilarious. Also, on May 4th is the Trooper Pack, which includes the Death Trooper, Incinerator Trooper, Range Trooper, Imperial Shore Trooper, and Mimban Stormtrooper.
I don't know what the Mimban Stormtrooper is, but the Imperial Shore Trooper is like
from Rogue One.
I think it's the Rogue One.
Oh,
one,
okay. Also, early access for digital pre-orders, and then there's
that's early access for digital pre-orders. The other one was the classic
for retail pre-orders.
Yeah. So already we're seeing that there are like some maximizing retailer relationship things happening here.
Rogue One, a Star Wars Stories character pack, releases on April 19th. That includes Jin, Bodhi, Cassian, K2SO, Chirrut,
Is it
Baze?
Yeah.
And then Krennic.
Which those are all cool, fun characters.
Mandalorian Season 2 character pack on May 4th. Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, Fennec Shand, and Moff Gideon.
Which, okay, if we want to say those characters come from Mandalorian, that's fine.
Also on May the 4th, Bad Batch character pack with Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, and Echo.
But not Omega. So I have to look, I try not to get upset about stupid things on this show. But the fact that they have all of the Bad Batch, but not Omega, even to say Omega as a non-playable character, maybe that would be okay. But she should be in the Bad Batch content.
It's also interesting that, because I have not watched the Bad Batch.
Yes.
My understanding is that Omega is the sister of Boba Fett, like a clone.
So Boba Fett is an unaltered clone of Jango Fett, just as Omega is an unaltered clone of Jango Fett. So are they sibling? They're as close to sibling. They are closer to siblings than Boba Fett is to all of the clones.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But yeah,
well, I'm just saying that there's no Boba Fett, which, fair that it's I just think it's interesting there's no Boba Fett, because he could be part of the Mandalorian Season 2.
No, he is.
Oh, wait. Oh. I retract my comment.
This whole thing is, well, I guess we can, let's finish up the list and then talk about what any of this means.
The final point here is that digital pre-orders also get classic Obi-Wan Kenobi,
which again begs the question: is classic Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I assume that means Alec Guinness style Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's my assumption as well.
Does that mean he's not normally playable in the game without these DLC characters? Also, this game has been delayed over a year of delays, and then within the first month that the game is out, 7 different packs of characters that you can buy as a collective or piecemeal are released right on top of it. It feels so slimy and so smarmy. You're a Lego game. Just put all the characters in the game.
They've already, well, we will see what ends up being true, but initially they said there were 140 playable characters in the game, right? Wasn't it something totally nuts like that?
And then they were also like Yaddle. So maybe we should have known at the time that they're yeah, we got Yaddle, we got Snice Noodles, we got Bib Fortuna.
Please let that Snice Noodles
I would love
be a playable character.
Snice Noodles is a playable character.
Please, so much. But Patrick, there's a lot of mouths to feed here. When Warner Brothers games, TT games,
yes.
the Lego Group,
yes.
Lucasfilm games, everybody's got their got to get their piece of the pie.
I just got the news about this downloadable content that's all coming out within the first month of the game's release I'm still excited for the game. I'm still going to buy it. I'm still excited to play. But it soured me on the concept of Lego Skywalker or Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. I think it may not be the sort of dream Lego Star Wars scenario that we were hoping for.
Yeah, we've obviously had our eyes on this game for a long time, but I will be looking at reviews before I make my purchase for sure.
And again, why no Omega? Why?
They had to make room for classic Obi-Wan, which eventually we will learn what that means.
Okay.
Nintendo recently updated the Nintendo Switch Online app on the Switch to include some missions and rewards that you can access directly in the app. For example, you can earn platinum points right now by playing Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo Switch Online or playing a game that supports online play. And then you earn those platinum points. You can also redeem platinum points for rewards such as avatars, like avatar backgrounds and avatar borders, which we were messing around a little bit and in classic Nintendo Online style, a little bit
It's a
opaque how it
little,
all
yeah,
works.
it's a little obtuse. It's easy to spend the platinum points. That's pretty easy to do. But you have to, once you buy them, you have to view them. I guess there are multiple ways to do it. But it wasn't immediately apparent to me that you can highlight the box in the upper left-hand corner of like the sort of main screen of Nintendo Switch Online, and you can put together a new icon for your like avatar in Nintendo Switch Online by putting a character on a background in a frame, and like generating new icons that way. Right now, there are Super Mario Odyssey characters that go away pretty soon, and Animal Crossing characters that go away like the end of April or something. So it seems like something that they're going to be updating as we go, and obviously taking things away as well. So there's a little bit of a non-gamified Nintendo badge arcade thing going on here, which I think is cool. Like I'm glad that they're getting to a place where you can personalize your online experience a little more. But it's yeah, it's just weird that it's under like these sort of draconian Nintendo online systems.
Yeah, I like the idea that you can buy backgrounds and borders separately, and you can combine them in different ways.
But in limited different ways. You couldn't put a Mario Galaxy background behind an Animal Crossing character. They have to like everyone stays in their own game.
But it took a little too much discovery to like figure out exactly how it works.
Yes.
But definitely, I think it is cool that they have implemented something like this. I guess fingers crossed they continue to refine it. I don't have a ton of hope that it's going to change rapidly because related, Nintendo also updated the Nintendo Switch Online phone app to version 2.0. And while it is a major release number, it has some pretty minor improvements. Like you can now easily copy your friend code from the app.
Oh boy.
Like it does the thing that phones do where you just press something and it says copy, and then now it's on your like clipboard, like a phone number or something. You can now do that with friends codes, and you can see which friends are online, which is something that you weren't able to do previously, and you can change your online status settings also on the app now.
I wasn't aware that you could set a status.
Yeah, I wasn't either. Does that just mean that like if you are online, you can use the app to show yourself as offline?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Or if you're not online, but you are using the app, that you can appear to be online.
To what
or
end?
You can be like, I'm playing Mario Tennis Aces.
Why would Nintendo allow us to lie to our friends like this?
I like it. I like it. Anything that lets us lie to our friends, I think, is a good feature.
Indie fighting darling them's Fightin herds can be maybe making its way to the Nintendo Switch. The game originally released on PC in 2020 and has been rated by the ESRB for Switch.
This is exciting to me. Them's Fightin Herds is first of all, love the name. But it is a one-on-one sort of classic fighting game where all the characters are like My Little Pony characters. The story goes that the developer originally wanted to make a My Little Pony fighting game, like based on the Friendship is Magic TV show. Couldn't get the rights because why would you be able to? Hasbro is stingy with those things, and instead just made their own characters. So the game has a lot of cred in the fighting game community as just being like solid mechanically, but then beyond that, it has like interesting single player options, which not all fighting games have, where there's like a little campaign mode and you play as all the characters on these little stories, and the characters all express themselves to each other, and it looks great. This is a game that I've had on my wish list for a while. I have a Mac at home, so I can't play something if it's just on Steam for not Apple, which Them's Fightin Herds to date has not been available on anything but Steam for PC stuff. So if it comes over to Switch, I'm going to get a chance to play this game. So I'm very excited about the opportunity to play Them's Fightin Herds.
In a blog post last week, Yacht Club Games provided a sales breakdown of sales for Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon and Cyber Shadow. The game sold best on Switch, and I don't have the exact breakdown in front of me, but it's like not even a contest. Like Switch far and away
Yeah.
was the best-selling platform for these games. But the part that I thought was interesting is uh, the Yacht Club Games reports that Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon has sold 35,000 copies across all platforms. And Cyber Shadow has sold 85,000 copies across all platforms. And that seems really low to me.
It's not especially considering the success of Shovel Knight and all of the attendant releases that were part of the treasure trove. Yeah, these feel like kind of small numbers.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, I loved Cyber Shadow. Thought it was great. I liked Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. Okay. But that is definitely like a specific type of game that I don't think necessarily speaks to the Shovel Knight audience. It's a very like puzzly kind of game. It's a weird one where it has a sort of casual gaming style to the gameplay, but is difficult. So it's almost like the worst of both worlds. But yeah, it's a bummer to me that Cyber Shadow didn't find a bigger audience.
Yeah. Well, and a few weeks ago when Yacht Club Games announced their new game, Mina the Hollower,
Yes.
and they set up a Kickstarter for it, at the time that took me by surprise because of how successful I think of Shovel Knight is being. And, in the Kickstarter, they say, hey, we're fine for money. It's not like we're in dire straits or anything. But they just recently became a publisher as well as a developer. And I think Cyber Shadow was the first game that was not developed by them that they published. So it was just interesting to me to see these numbers. I think it's kind of cool that Yacht Club Games is so transparent about how their games perform, because usually that stuff is like like secretive.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that they said when they launched this new Kickstarter was that they were doing it, like you said, they're fine for the money, but the reason that they're doing it this way is to sort of build the community around the game, update people who are fans of it, and like really get them invested in what the game is, which they didn't do for Pocket Dungeon. They didn't do for Cyber Shadow. And maybe we're seeing the result of that borne out in these kind of lackluster numbers. If you get the 35,000 people that bought Pocket Dungeon because they were excited about Shovel Knight, if you get those 35,000 people to kickstart, what's the name of the new game? Mina the Hollower. If you get them receiving regular updates about the game, they're going to be talking about it more. They're going to be thinking about it more, and possibly talking to other people about it more. Like, I think we maybe gave them crap about it when it was originally announced, but like, it's a solid strategy to like get people to feel like they are invested in this project. So,
totally.
Yeah, it's go play Cyber Shadow. If you like ninja games at all, go play Cyber Shadow. It's super fun. It feels like Ninja Gaiden, but has a like futuristic setting and a weird, creepy story. I thought it was a really good game. It bums me out that it didn't even sell 100,000 copies.
The first wave of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC will be arriving next Friday.
Outrageous.
March 18th.
Outrageous.
That is crazy. And Nintendo has recently put up an FAQ addressing some questions about how the whole thing works. One interesting thing to note, if you access the DLC through a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscription, only the user on the Switch who is subscribed to the service can access the tracks. But if you purchase the Booster Course Pass separately, so you're not getting it through Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack,
you're genuinely paying the $24.99 for it.
All users on the Switch can access the new tracks.
So keep that in mind. I don't know what exactly like it's tough to wrap your head around like why that matters, but just know that how you access the booster course pass does determine who on the Switch can use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We already know that a summer update for Nintendo Switch Sports will add baseball to the game's lineup, but could there be more sports on the way?
Could there be more sports on the way?
Data mining on Nintendo Switch Sports has revealed references to both dodgeball and basketball in the code.
So, Mark, now we begin some speculation. Does that mean those are just games that they were working on that they eventually scrapped? Does it mean these are games that are coming? Does it mean that any number of other games could be buried in that code somewhere? What do we know? What don't we know? What do we want to happen?
I think it would be cool if they continued to release free updates for it. It's only, if you buy the digital version, it's only $40, which again seems like such a, to me, such like a good deal to be able to play Wii Sports again, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, but
And play it online.
And so just adding additional games, especially new games like Dodgeball, I could totally see how that would work with motion controls. Basketball, I'd be interested to see how that works.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope that we will continue to see these trickle out the same way, you know, Mario. Actually, this is probably better than what we got with Mario Tennis Aces.
Yeah, totally.
And, you know, like Kirby
Star Allies.
Allies.
It's Kirby month. We know everything about Kirby, including the names of some of the games.
But yeah, I think I hope this is true. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I hope so too. I imagine that it will. The likelihood of there being more games coming to Nintendo Switch Sports will be tied directly to the number of copies the game sells, right? Like if it sells well, they will be like, yes, this is a thing that we support. But I think in some ways it is a gamble, Nintendo Switch Sports, and we'll have to see if the audience that was there for the Wii continues to be here for this.
You know, I would argue the counter almost, where
Ooh.
even and not that if it sells really well, they won't.
We got a
release
Crossfire
these.
situation.
Crossfire.
No, not like that. Like the TV show.
Oh, less interested.
Yes.
Well, only because I don't know the theme song. I don't think sales necessarily incentivize it because, you know, I think if it's already in the works, if it sells well, they're not going to. I don't think they're just going to be like, well, let's not release these. We sold it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But if it is not sold to their expectations, there may actually be a reason to keep releasing these because, especially if a lot of the dev work is already done, because that might incentivize sales in the future because people might say like, oh, this is a complete package or more of a complete package, or I'm really interested in seeing how Dodgeball works. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if Dodgeball and Basketball are part of a paid DLC that you can access with the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack?
Ooh, well, as a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscriber, that'd be fine.
Yeah, as someone who's already paying for it, like, yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Crossfire. Over. In related, does this mean anything news? A Reddit user named VideoPanda7113 received a YouTube advertiser survey asking them, quote, next time you buy a downloadable content pack, which one are you most likely to buy? And one of the options was Mario Party Superstars, which, as of now, doesn't have any DLC. So, do we think this means it's on the way? Do we think that whoever the advertiser who was paying the survey was not Nintendo and so, you know, confused it with the
anything else?
Yeah. Do we think that this is like a almost like control thing where they're like, well, there is not going to be, you know, a DLC for this, or there is not, so we'll actually use this to see if people are like paying attention to the survey or know what they're, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with a couple of notable exceptions, Nintendo has been pretty straightforward this generation about what games they're going to be supporting post-launch and what games they're just putting out there, right? Like, we know that Tennis Aces, we know that the Golf Super Rush, we knew Luigi's Mansion, obviously we know Splatoons, that all of those games were going to be supported. Animal Crossing, like all of them, right? But Mario Party Superstars. We know the names of all the games. That they never let on that they were going to be like adding additional characters or courses or whatever after launch.
That's true, but I would say they also didn't really say anything about Super Mario Party, and that had a huge update just a few months ago that included like online and everything.
That's it though. That's all it included. And it already had online. They just made everything playable online.
I see.
So like the hugeness of the update is not it's not like content. It's not new assets or anything like that. I would guess that you're right, that it is just a little bit of a control thing. That option in the survey was a little bit of a control item there. Something that this made me think of that I want to loop back to now that it is way in the rearview mirror. Them's fighting herds, rated by the ESRB, has not been confirmed as coming to Switch by either the developer, publisher, or Nintendo itself, which has me thinking, if there are breadcrumbs, but no one is saying, yeah, it's coming, maybe we have a Indie World Showcase coming up.
Ooh.
And they're holding it for that.
Oh, yeah. I'd be into it.
Yep.
I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to turn my nose up at an Indie World Showcase.
I'm just saying this is me planting my flag. Indie World Showcase in the next 2 weeks, I'm calling it.
But we are really going to have to figure out what to do if an Indie World Showcase happens on like a Wednesday.
Ooh.
And in the middle of Kirby month.
Middle of Kirby month.
Although I guess something similar happened in Kid Icarus month. And we lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened.
We talked about the showcase and then...
Oh, and then we just pushed everything back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Kirby month can be whatever we want it to be.
A port of Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire was announced for Switch back in 2018.
Deadfire!
But after being announced for a holiday release that year, then delayed to 2019, we haven't heard anything since until now. On publisher Versus Evil's Discord, one of the developers confirmed the port has been canceled, joining Steep in the Great Port Graveyard in the sky.
Steep. Mark, Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. Was this a game that you were excited about coming out?
So Pillars of Eternity, full stop, was like the first one, which actually is on Switch, is an RPG that I've always been interested in diving into.
It's one of those, yes.
Because it's totally right up my alley. But I just didn't have the time when it came out. Don't have a PC that could play it, and didn't pick up the Switch version. And so now I don't know when, but never say never, because I'm playing Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch, and one day I may decide that Pillars of Eternity is something I'm gonna go back to.
Yeah, and we'll mess up one of the characters' names in that one too.
And finally, there's a version of the Nintendo Switch OLED model being sold in Japan that comes in a special Kirby Mouthful Mode box.
No, this is I encourage everyone to go look this up. Nintendo Switch OLED Mouthful Mode. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like a pink slip sleeve that like goes over the box.
Yeah, I think that's how I see it too. It is a slip sleeve that has like a top, so it is truly like in a way like Kirby. Actually, I suppose if it were,
it would have to be from the mouth.
Yes, because what it actually is it appears you would like place it on top of it. You would cover the box.
I mean, it is totally unclear. It may be that like the box just is this pink Kirby thing. Maybe they just like tape them together and you have to do it yourself. Like it's a solid pink box. And then it's like Kirby's like face, and he's got like puffed up cheeks, like he's trying to hold in the Nintendo OLED.
Yeah, it's cute, but I agree with you, Patrick. My one note would be they should have figured out a way to have it be like you insert it into its mouth,
right? It's
and
like
pull it out
rubbery.
Of the mouth.
You gotta like pry open the mouth and like jam it in there.
That's my one note.
They're only available in Japan. It's evidently being sold in extremely limited quantities. So it seems like a cool like collector's thing, and just a funny. I don't know. I love this. I think it's so.
I love Mouthful Mode.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we get many more Mouthful Mode things in the future.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Let's close out the news. And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or any place that you can share a thing. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ehlers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. And the show is at Nin Kart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying put Omega in LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. And thank you for listening.
I'm Brian Husky. I'm bald.
And I'm Charlie Sanders, and I'm also bald, and we host Bald Talk on the Campfire Media Network.
Bald Talk is the podcast where two bald comedians talk to anyone bald about being bald.
But this show isn't just for baldies, Brian. Harrows will love it too.
Bald Talk gets into vulnerability, vanity, insecurity, and self-acceptance, reminding us that we all have our respective bald spots. Not that bald spots are a bad thing.
No way. I mean, my entire head is one big bald spot.
It is one huge, beautiful bald spot, Charlie.
Get Bald Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I have like a little bit of hair, but not like you. Like, you're really bald.
I'm truly bald.
Great. I mean, it's
I'm
great.
balder than you.
You are balder than me.
Only on Bald Talk. Campfire.